Okay, Shalom. Right, this is a shortened version of a teaching that I've just done that is really quite long, over an hour and 40 minutes. So this is a part that I really want this message to get out, because it's the sort of thoughts that can bring us a great deal of unity. And it's basically looking at the three aspects of Moshiach and how those three aspects of Moshiach have actually descended into the three heads of the clipper. Now, the clipper, I should say, are the three evil husks of exile. The Erev Rav, which dominates over Judaism in the time of exile. There's the Edomite head, which dominates over Christianity. And there's the Yishmaelite head, which dominates over Islam at this time of exile. However, there's also three aspects of the Moshiach. And we know that in the Erev Rav is the body of the bird, which is Moshiach, exiled. We know that the left wing of the bird, which is Yeshua, Moshiach, Ben Yosef, is exiled into Christianity. Okay, so there's this great truth, the truth about Moshiach Ben Yosef, has descended into Edomite exile. And in this video I will show you how the concept of Moshiach ben David has descended into Islam. Okay, so the concept, we are waiting a revelation of Moshiach ben David, but the actual concept of the unity between the Torah of Moshiach, Yeshua, and the Torah of Moshe needs to come together as one. And it's in Ezekiel, it's the stick of Yehuda and the stick of Yosef that come together, and that's basically the inner and outer revelation of the name Yod-He Vav-He, the 13 attributes of mercy, as revealed, one in the book of Exodus to Moshe, and two in the book of Micah chapter 7, the higher level. Okay, so I'm going to go through some teachings here. I understand that they're quite controversial. I've seen this in different ways in a lot of the analysis that I've done, especially looking at like Hagar and Yishmael, and this verse particular, and that we're going to look at, King David dwelling in the tents of Kedar. Okay, so there's lots to think about. But ultimately, this teaching is to bring unity, because that is the will of Yod-He Vav-He, for all humanity to be united, and for the light that is hidden in all these major clipots, for us to do the work that is required in order to transform that darkness into light and to usher in that final redemption. So this is wonderful teaching. It's not teaching we should run from, it's teaching that we should really dive into and explore to the absolute depth. So the rest of the video is going to be simply an extract from what I've already taught. Really enjoy it and really use this opportunity to grow and mature and think in terms of unity and not separation. Enough blood has been spilt. We need redemption now. Okay, we've got this. Okay, Ha'eved ha'ivri, the Hebrew servant. Okay, the Hebrew servant. It comes, so this is a regular then, 81, which is the ordinal for Moshe, as I've shown you. It'll probably come up actually. 287, they're the regulars anyway. The regulars come, so that's Ha'eved 81, Ha'ivri 287. Together they come to 368, which is 368 times 2 is 736, the full ordinal of the verse that we've just been looking at. So we know that this whole concept is related to that ultimate going up, the ascension of David. And as we can see, this is Yosef. Okay, this is Yosef. King David will not ascend. King David cannot ascend without the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. Okay, so the ordinals of it are 27 and 53. Okay, let's come to 80. 53 is Yeshua, the ordinal of Yeshua, and it's also the ordinal of Yaakov when he's rectified, when he's empowered with the truth, when he's got the Vav within his name that represents the truth. And where does the Vav come from? It comes from Eliyahu Navi. 5 times in the Tanakh, Eliyahu Navi has got a missing Vav. 5 times in Tanakh, Yaakov's got an additional Vav. So together, that's the regular and ordinal. That's the regular and ordinal. I've done it differently. I normally do the regular and ordinal. I did it differently to highlight this, that hidden in the regular and ordinal is Moshiach and Yeshua. And there's always got to be a unity between Moshiach and Yeshua. That unity between Moshiach and Yeshua is what reveals King David. Because they together have done the 999 footsteps. It's what the Jewish people have attained through keeping the Torah, the name Yod-Heh-Vav. They've maintained faithfulness to the name Yod-Heh-Vav that's been revealed to them within the letter of the Torah. And everything they have done in service to the name, even in exile when we get it all wrong, or we get a lot of it wrong, I should say. It's not all wrong, but it's still exiled. It's still not fully redeemed, all that work that has been accomplished, all that rectification. And also the Christians and the Yishmaelites have been doing in exile, in accordance to the name as has been revealed to them. And to the Christians, it's definitely the highest levels of mercy. I can't really speak about the way that Yod-Heh-Vav has revealed himself to the Yishmaelites. All I know is from a Torah perspective, and it's easy for me to understand Edomites. It's like Ramchal said, the 70 nations are divided, 35 to Edom, 35 to Yishmael. So we can see there's going to be parallels between the exile within Edomite exile and the exile within Yishmaelite mindset. Okay, and so what am I trying to say with that? The Yishmaelites have done good works for the sake of the name as it's been revealed to them. Okay, and what's been revealed to them is the merciful side of Yod-Heh-Vav. Okay, so they have still received a revelation, but it's concealed still in exile. They've received a revelation of the name Yod-Heh-Vav, but within the context of exile. So there's still concealment. The Jewish people have received a name of Yod-Heh-Vav within the letter of the law. Okay, and but it's still within the context of Erev Rav domination and exile. So there's some revelation, there's some concealment. Likewise, the revelation that the Christians received is completely, totally above the letter of the law, the stick of Yosef, and that is the name as revealed above the letter of the law. This is quite interesting, and it's something that I'm really exploring. I didn't really want to speak about it, but what has been revealed to the Islamic people, the Muslim people, is really, it's almost the concept of Moshiach ben David in exile. Because why? I was once talking to a Muslim, and I can remember this conversation. I'm pretty sure it happened at Ben Gurion Airport. And we were having quite a heated debate, actually, mocking these people. No, I really was. I put myself in a place of danger, really. But anyway, obviously, it was Ben Gurion Airport. And anyway, there was telling me, and another pointed out something, and it was like, it was something along the lines of, well, the Jews have got all the law and keep everything to do with the law, and the Christians have totally abandoned all the law, and it's all spirituality. He says, we have got both together. We have got some of the law, but it's not to a real degree of stringency like the Jewish people. It's all about keeping Torah. It's all about keeping the laws, and to an absolute degree. This is and the do. If you're from Jew, it's to an absolute exhausting degree. Okay, so they says, we've got the spiritual side as well, but we've also got more in terms of commandments. We're somewhere in between the both. We've got both of them. But we're not just spiritual, and we're not just keeping the law. And I remember thinking about that. But really, what they were actually saying is, within Islam, if we're talking in the language that we're talking now, if, for example, there's three aspects to the concept of Moshiach. You've got Moshe exiled into Erev Rav, Judaism. You've got Moshiach ben Yosef exiled into Edomite, exile. But then you have got a concept of Moshiach ben David that will bring those two sticks together as one. This is exiled into, obviously, is exiled in somewhere, and I can't really speak of it, but it's the concept of Moshiach ben David is exiled into Islam. So we need to take all those concepts of Moshiach and unite them together as one. Okay, and it will at the end. I am really quite convinced that when that man opened his mouth and spoke to me, he was speaking something of a very high level truth, because in a way, when King David does come back, he's coming back at the level of Chaya. So Chaya is still above the letter of the law, but it's closer to the letter of, if you think about Moshe being the first letter here, King David is coming back between Moshe and Yeshua. He's right in the middle. The Chaya is in the middle. Okay, so you've got the letter of the law, and then you've got above the letter of the law, but the level of Chaya is in between those two. Okay, it's the body of the Yod. So it's near to the letter of the law, but it's also near to above the letter of the law. It's some kind of in between. And the Zohar speaks of this also. It speaks about the Torah of Moshe, Torah of Mashiach, the all-seeing eye of Keter, which is the level of Moshiach ben Yosef, the tip of the Yod, washing clean the two eyes of Zer and Pin, which is really the Torah of Moshe, and all of washing it all clean of its judgments, harsh judgments. So there is something in this that's extremely interesting about the whole concept of Moshiach ben David descending into or being exiled within Islam, because we can see if there's a pattern, and we know that the heads of the exile exist for some reason of concealing something. It's very clear that the Erev Rav are concealing your Moshe. It's very clear that the Edomites are concealing Moshiach ben Yosef. And it must also, by the same measure, become clear to us that Islam, the purpose of Islam, is to conceal the concept of Moshiach ben David. And so we've got obviously we can't accept Islam no more than we can accept Christianity, and we can accept Judaism at this time. But we've got to see the potential within all these heads of the clippers. Once they have been fully rectified, we can unite them together as one, and in the end, what we can expect under the one shepherd is something along that's going to parallel a little bit like what we see in Islam. Not all the harsh extreme Islam, but I'm talking about the idea of still keeping the law, but not to this nth degree where it becomes burdensome. Still keeping the Torah, but in the right spirit. Doing everything in the right spirit. With a spiritual dimension to doing everything. So, but not being just super spiritual and totally abandoning the Torah. It's something to consider. I mean, it's something that is definitely there within the Torah, if you look. I have come across it, but just haven't spoken about it. I've given little indications, but it's something that is actually within the Torah that's indicating that would be the case. So all these people that are willing to point the finger at Muslims and see how wrong and what an evil, unholy prophet you have, we're all at a state where we've received the truth, but the truth has been descended. So if there's something so powerful that Yod-Heh Vav has created something so powerful as an evil clipper called Yishmael, be sure that in that is something very precious hidden. Okay, and you can see it. It's before you if you want to see it. Okay, so these two together come to 448. That's, I just pointed out the 553, haven't I? Being Yeshua and the ordinal of Yeshua. But anyway, if we add them all together, it comes to 448, which is very interesting. Then I've put Moshiach filled 81, Yeshua 53, so that's why they're all highlighted. Chaya, which is the soul level of Moshiach ben David, comes to 448. This is also Chaya, Chava, Eve rectified, the mother of all living. Okay, so this is we're wanting to get back to our exalted place in Garden of Eden, aren't we? Where Chaya and Adam are perfectly restored. And the word echad, by the way, which is, that's what we're wanting to do, receive the echad, the oneness of Yotevave. We're wanting to be able to perceive some aspect of his total perfection, the aspect of his total perfection, the aspect of his infinite perfection that he has willed to make known to us who are finite, is what is called his echad, his oneness. And that basically means that there is nothing but him. He is the only authority, he is the only power. And that is what will be made known to us through the concept of Moshiach. And the word Echad, according to the sages, is an acronym for Adam, Chaya and David. Okay, so we know Chaya is very important, and Adam and David all unite together. So 448, Moshiach ben David 434, which this is Moshiach ben David rectified. Okay, but if we add back David, which is David, the normal spelling of David, Daleth, Vav, Daleth, comes to 14. That also comes to 448. We can see how it's all related. Garden of Eden filled. Okay, that's the Garden of Eden filled to the second filling, 448. Okay, and my anointed. So this is going back to this number here. My anointed, Moshiach, comes to 368. So we can see that's related to the Hebrew servant. And it's also related back to that number 736, which is the full ordinal of the number where it takes for the verse where it says 3 times about King David going up. It's got 62 ordinally, 430 together. 430 is Malkuth, I do believe. Just wait a minute, let me... Oh, it's is it shekel? Just wait a minute, let me think about this. Yeah, each shekel. It's probably some other things, but shekel as in... and we talked about the 30 shekels, didn't we? Regarding that verse about the foolish shepherds. You know, Moshiach has been sold into slavery. Just like Yosef was sold. He was sold for 20 shekels. The Moshiach ben Yosef was sold for 30 pieces of silver, and he will need redeeming back. He's been sold into Edomite slavery, he will need redeeming back. So if the might anointed is very much related to the concept of the shekel. You know, shekel comes to 430. But 368 is 92 times 4. And 92 is Moshe, the ordinal of Moshe plus the ordinal of Yeshua. That's why there's got to be unity. And it's also the rectified ordinal of Moshiach ben David. Okay. Came to me, did the Hebrew slave. So this comes to 412 plus 106. And we know that 106 is the ordinal of those 3 words, which is 2 times 53, Yeshua. Okay, came to me, did a Hebrew slave, 518, which is 2 times 259. 259 is Jonah Navi, 139 plus Eliyahu Navi, Jonah the prophet plus Elijah the prophet, 120. That comes to 259. Okay, so we can see this link. And obviously, these are the forces of prophecy that enable us to receive the truth. Okay, these are the flow of prophecies that enabled to receive the truth about Moshiach ben David and about Moshiach ben Yosef and Moshiach ben David. Okay, they must be united together, and obviously we can see a link there. And then going up to this, the overall total of this verse comes to 2 times the filling out of Amalek. Okay, Amalek is the force that prevents us from accessing the truth. It's all the doubts regarding Moshiach ben Yosef. But we can see that can be broken down to 1,447 can be 1,000, which is the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, Moshiach ben David added together. The whole concept of Moshiach is in the number 1,000, plus 447, and 447 is and truth. Okay, so I talked about the 2 revelations of the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. 1, the 13 attributes as revealed to Moshe. 1, the 13 attributes of mercy as revealed in the book of Keter, in the book of Micah chapter 7 at the level of Keter. And one of them from the book of Micah is give truth to Yaakov, and the parallel attribute of mercy found within the letter of the law is We'emeth, and truth. Okay, and that's the concept of Moshiach united with the truth defeats Amalek. Okay, so that's the wholly opposite. The full concept of Moshiach, the united concept of Moshiach, plus the truth defeats Amalek, the doubt. Right, so now we've got this verse, which is where I was going to head towards. Woe to me, for I have sojourned in Meshech, I dwelt among the tents of Kedar. That's from Tehillim 120, verse 5. Comes to a regular of 2,305 plus 343. That comes to 2,648, which is 8 times 311, 8 times Ephraim. So we know, again, we've got this whole concept of dwelling among the tents of Kedar, which is one of the tribes of the Yishmaelites, and this is King David. You know what I was saying about, King David exiled among the Yishmaelites? This is a classic that's pointing to that fact. Because I dwelt among the tents of Kedar. I am for Shalom and they are for war. So it's an indication that the concept of Moshiach ben David is exiled among the Yishmaelites, which is the Muslim people. Quite a powerful revelation in that. Let's just fly through this. I have sojourned in Meshach. I have to go through some concepts before I can link it back up to the verse that we've just done. So I'll just go through some of these as quickly as I can, and then you'll see how we link back to some of the numbers in the actual verse that we've just talked about, where David is going up to Hebron. I have sojourned in Meshech, right? So 973 regular, 100 ordinary comes to 1073. Okay, the serpents. Okay, this is where the serpents, the fiery serpents, and Nachashim, are seraphim. So these were the serpents in Numbers 21:06 that bit the children of Israel. It's really the false Messiah that's biting the children of Israel and causing some of them to die. But then Moshe takes a serpent out of copper and puts it on a staff and lifts the copper serpent up, and the ones that have been bitten can look at it and be healed. Okay, so this is all this context here. Hanachashim are seraphim, the fiery serpents, right? So we're going to go back and look at this number. It comes to 413 plus 71. 71 is Yonah, so it's a sign of Moshiach ben Yosef. But Yonah is really the 70 nations plus Israel. Okay, so it comes to 484 together, which is 2 times 242. Probably come to that number at some point. The Mispah Gadol, however, where the Mem is 600, is 973. Okay, so I have sojourned in Meshech. Me, the false Messiah, has sojourned in Meshech. Okay, so the false concept of Moshiach ben David exiled into Yishmaelite, but we need to take the false in order to gain the truth. From the concealment comes forth the revelation. Okay, so 793 plus 82, which is Moshiach ben David, the ordinal of Moshiach ben David. Okay, together they come to 1055. We've also got this, 973 is the second filling out of Yeshua. So that's Yeshua. The first filling out, Yeshua, comes to 316. The second filling out comes to 393, which we've talked about. That's Shiloh. Okay, and it's all those other concepts, Ha'ivrim, the Hebrews. And then we've got this second filling out, which comes to 973. And again, we've got the missing none. We've got the missing none, which is the truth is missing. So this is linked to, we can see all these concepts, which are all in exile at this time. King David, the serpent, the concept of Moshiach in exile. Yeshua is the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef in exile, with the truth missing regarding him from in both Erev Rav and Yishmaelite and Edomite. The concept of Yeshua is in all those three major religions, but it's all exiled. Okay, so I've sojourned in Messiash. And then we've got this, which is related to the concept of the suffering servant, again, despised by peoples. Okay, Psalm 22:6. It comes to 141. Now, 141 is Amunah. The ordinal is 102. Just let me get this right. Yeah, the 141. The ordinal of the regular of Amunah, which we're in a process of trying to rectify our complete faith by transforming all this evil and exile into a revelation, all this concealment into a revelation. So we've got Amunah, which is 102, and the ordinal of Amunah is 39, which is exactly the same as the ordinal for Moshiach. Add them together, we get 141. Okay. Faith. 60, however, is falsehood and Amalek, the ordinal of falsehood and Amalek. But together this despise of the people comes to 201, which is the ordinal for, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. But this light was not given to us on a plate. I've pointed this out loads. The first two words, which are start off with this number up here, and God said, comes to well, I think it's an ordinal of 91, but anyway, in this word, and God said 343, and God said let there be light, no, let me get this right, and God said let there be light comes to 575. I'm speaking from memory now. 575 is exactly the same gematria as evil inclination. Let there be light and there was light comes to 470, which is exactly the same as Amalek spelt out, 470. Okay, I've pointed that out loads. So both falsehood, Sheker, is 60. That's represented by our evil inclination. And Amalek is also, the ordinal of Amalek is 60. So we've got these forces that come against our Amunah. And we will have perfect Amunah, and we will have that light revealed when we transform that falsehood and that doubt and that concealment into a revelation. Okay, we don't get the light given to us on a plate. It comes concealed in darkness and doubt and evil. Transform. We have got to work to transform it. The Mispah Gadol of despised by the peoples comes to 701 plus 71. So again, we've got this 71 Yonah. Okay, the 70 nations plus Israel. Together they come to 772, which is 2 times 386, 2 times Yeshua. Okay, so if we add the regular and the ordinal plus the Mispah Gadol, there we go, get to 973. So that relates back to all these concepts. Okay, This is a wonderful one. Moshiach, spelt out that way. First spelling of Moshiach, 450. Yeshua, 523. Add them together, 973. So this is the concept, isn't it, of Moshiach in exile. So Moshiach in Erev Rav, Yeshua in Edomite. Well, Yeshua's, they're all exiled into each other basically, but I'm talking about the predominant ones. And then the concept of Moshiach ben David, exiled in amongst the tents of Kedar, the Yishmaelites. And then what are the testimonies, the statutes and the ordinance which, from Deuteronomy 6:20. This is the verse which I have included previously, that includes all the initial letters of the 5 aspects of the Redeemer. So Moshe, there's an M, a Mem. David, there's a Daleth. Yosef, Yod. Yaakov, Yod. And Shin is a Sarach Bat Asher. And they're in order within this verse. I'll just bring it up so that you can see. Okay, so we've got this. If your son asks you in time to come, saying, what are the testimonies, the statutes and the ordinances which the Lord our God has commanded you? Okay, you'll see the initial letters here. This is in the same place of every word. It's the second from the end, second letter from the end. Okay, so it's a Mem, Daleth, Yod, Yod, Shin. Moshe, David, Yaakov, Yosef, Sarach. Okay, and then this is obviously part of it. What are the testimonies, the statutes and the ordinances which, and it goes on to say, the Lord your God has commanded you. So that comes to 1684, and plus 262 ordinally, which is 1946, which is 2 times 973. So here again we've got a connection. The whole of the concepts of Moshiach connected back, the united concepts of Moshiach connected back to all these concepts of Moshiach in exile. Right, it also equals 14 times 139, which is David times the whole concept of Yonah, which is the sign of Moshiach ben Yosef. Okay, so that's very interesting. What else have we got? We've got this concept of the overhanging curtains. It's very much related to the concept of Sarach, because the overhanging curtains are called Tisrach, the overhanging access curtains in the tabernacle in the wilderness, and that word Tisrach is related to Sarach. It's what the sages say her name is named after. That's why she had an excessive life. You know, she lived a long time according to the Midrash, because in the Torah she's listed as one of the 70 going into exile, and she's also listed in the list of those going into the land of Israel. So she had a long life. She had a very long life. So this is related to the Tzarach, the overhanging, the excess of the overhanging curtains. So that comes to 851 regularly, which is a highly messianic in itself, plus 122 ordinarily. That also comes to 973. So again, this concept of Sarach Bat Asher, she's an aspect of the concept of the Moshiach, because she comes up all the time. She's the one who found the bones of Moshe. Okay, so she's very much connected to Yaakov, she's very much connected to Yosef, she's very much connected to Yaakov, Yosef and Moshe. She was with Moshe when she found the bones of Yosef, according to Midrash. Okay, so very, very powerful aspect to the concept of Moshiach, especially regarding revealing the truth about Moshiach ben Yosef, 973. Okay. And then we've just got this connection, haven't we? The 393, which came up here. Because, let's have a look at this next one. Oh, I don't know quite why I've included that, but that's another one. You know, the 393 that I told you about, Shiloh, and all those other powerful 393s. And as we can see, it's related up here. And then that's obviously related to this number here. But the 393 is also a line of the tribe of Judah. which is an appellation for Moshiach ben David. Okay, so we've got a connection to there, another messianic connection. And then we've got this concept here, because we're dealing with 100 now. Okay, so the 100, Melech Israel, king of Israel, comes to 631 plus 100 ordinal. That's 731. 100 is also to the months of the year. Okay, Lechodsheh Hashanah. The whole concept of the month is very much related also to Moshiach. We've got the same gematria. I'm not going to go into that just at this time though. And then we've got the still small voice. Well, it's the still small voice. I ain't got the vowel pointings on, so I'll probably make a mess of pronouncing it if I try and pronounce it without the vowel pointings. The still small voice, 100 ordinally plus 334 regular equals 434, which is Moshiach ben David, spelled out rectified. And then we've got peaceful and faithful. 487 regular plus 100 an ordinal, that comes to 587, and this is describing Serach bat Asher. So this is, according to the sages, this is describing Serach bat Asher. She's related to this overhanging curtains, and she's one of the aspects of redemption, Moshiach. And then we've got 100 is also Yaakov, rectified with the additional Vav plus Yaakov. The normal spelling of Yaakov comes to 100. And then we've got this one here. This is 851. Is how Esav was searched out. This is another very messianic text. It talks about the hidden things in Esav. So 851 for that. What are the hidden things in Esav? Moshiach is the hidden things of Esav. Comes to 131. Together they come to 982. So we can see that this is related. But this is the most powerful connection. You've got 355, which represents Moshiach ben Yosef. It's the three ways that the sun is described in Torah: HaMe'or, HaGadol, Hayom, the luminary that is great of the day. So that comes to 355. That the sun represents Moshiach ben Yosef. 396 represents Moshiach ben David. Okay, and it also is the word for Pharaoh, which we know Moshiach ben Yosef was subject to Pharaoh, and it's also 5 times Yonah. We know that's the sign of Yonah, and it's also the word, the cupbearer forgot Yosef and forgot Yosef, and that word and forgot comes to 355. Yosef has been forgotten in exile. We need to get to a place of remembrance. 409, but to be forgotten means you're subject to external forces, exilic external forces, which is the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef is. The soul of Moshiach ben Yosef is forgotten, exposed to external forces, and that is including our own, an aspect of our own soul. Needs to be redeemed. 496 are the three words to describe the moon, which is related to Moshiach ben David, synonymous with Moshiach ben David. So we've got HaMe'or, HaKatan, Halayla, the luminary that is small at night. So together, and also 496 is exactly the same gematria as red with beautiful eyes. It describes King David before he's been going to be anointed as king by Samuel. He's called red with beautiful eyes. So that comes to 851 if we add those two together, which is 37 times 23. Which is 37 is the soul level of Yechida, which I talked about, the tip of the Yod, Moshiach ben Yosef, and 23 is Chaya, which we've already talked about, the soul level of Chaya, the mother of all living. Okay, the soul level of Moshiach ben David. Okay. And then we've also got this is relating back up to here, I have sojourned in Meshech, which is the whole, related to the whole concept of Yosef in exile. And Yosef said to his brothers, I am Yosef, is my father still alive? So this is him revealing himself to his brothers, which is the wholly opposite of this, isn't it? This is concealment of King David. Once Yosef is revealed, that revelation brings about the revelation of King David. Okay, the truth about Moshiach ben Yosef and united with the concept of Moshiach, brings about that revelation of King David from his exile. Okay. And then we've got this, the 802 equals 401 times 2. And the definite article of et, you know, like et hashemayim wa et haaretz, and the heavens and the earth, comes to 401. The aleph and the tav, 401, plus an ordinal of 23, which equals 424, Moshiach ben David. And I've pointed out before in the book of Revelations, I think it's Yeshua calling himself the aleph and tav. I'm not quite convinced about that. I think it's Erev Rav calls himself the aleph and the tav, but it's related to the concept of Moshiach ben David. It's a code name, if you like, for the concept of Moshiach ben David. Elif Kesef, which is 1,000 silver pieces. This was what was paid to Sarah when she'd been kidnapped by Avimelech. Well, she hadn't been kidnapped. Avram had said, it's my sister, and Avimelech took her because she was beautiful for his own wife. But then boils broke out, and whatever, there was kind of an affliction on Avimelech, and then he questioned Avram and realised that Sarah was somebody else's wife. Okay, and then he gave her 1,000 silver pieces, Elef Kesef. We know the word Elef, 1,000, represents Moshiach. So this is all to do again with the concept of redeeming Moshiach. Just as here, look, Yosef needed to be redeemed. You know, he was sold and he needs redemption in some way. And this is related to that concept of redemption also. Oops. So we've got this, and God said, let there. So, and God said, Vayoma Elohim Yehi, and let there, and then the next word would be light. This is how it relates back to King David going up. Okay, because the whole verse of that, the ordinal was 736, which 2 times, just let me get my thing, 2 times 368 is 736. So we finally got to the bit where it's connected to that up there. And God said, let there is also 116, which is Yeshua Moshiach ben Yosef. We'll get to that probably. And then that together comes to 484, which we can see is related up here, 444. The serpents, which we know, this is the serpents that bite, the false Moshiach. Okay, so we know what precedes the light is related to the concept of the false Moshiach. Okay, the serpents that bite. So we've got to take this concept of the false Moshiach, which is like a serpent that bites us in exile and causes all kind of death and destruction. We've got to transform that into a complete revelation, and then there will be the light. Vayoma Elohim, and God said, is 343, which is related up here as well. 343, and God said. Okay, and Rashi said the light of the final redemption will be is related to this number. It will be 343 times greater than the light that was original. Let me just get the actual word in. Yeah, 343 according to Rashi is the number of times brighter the light will shine in the world to come. Okay, so we've got this, and God said, let there be light, but we're really talking about the light that will be revealed in the world to come. Obviously, we've got some light now exposed to us, but it's incomparable to what we will ultimately receive, and that's based on this verse. 343 is 7 times 7 times 7. Okay. And then we've got this, and truth. The squared ordinals of truth come to 654, and the tav is 22 times 22 is 484, and the tav is the seal of truth. The tav is called the seal of truth. Okay, so we know it's heavily related to truth. Okay, and obviously the seal of truth, and God said let there, and then up here, from the lie and the delusion, the truth can ultimately be revealed. Okay, we can gain the seal of truth. Like I've said, you hold up the serpent on the staff. Look at the foolish concept you have regarding the concept of Moshiach, and all the folly that you're actually believing that's actually biting you whilst you're in exile, and do something about it. Transform it into a revelation of the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. So truth comes to 654, which is 2 times 327. In truth, better meth comes to 658. Okay? 658. It's a very significant number. We'll get to that. Let's have a look at this though. We've also got, alright, I've just pointed out here, Moshiach ben Yosef is 116. That's the ordinal of Moshiach ben Yosef. And 368 is also Mashiach, my anointed, the Moshiach. I don't know whether I've already gone through that number. Right. And then we've got a connection here to the squared ordinal of truth. But a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. Okay, we want to get back to the tree of life, which is ultimately a revelation of the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Okay, so it's 123, and 123 is Kate Shem Lechoshech. He sets an end to darkness. And also those initial letters of Kate Shem Lechoshech spell shekel. And I've told you about we need to redeem Elef Kesef, this whole concept of redeeming back the Moshiach because he was sold into slavery. Together they come to 777, which is related to the Messianic era. 654 is 2 times 327. So let's go and have a look what this 327 is. 327 is this mysterious name that's written on the mezuzah. She's got 114 ordinally, which is 2 times 57, 2 times HaMashiach, but 147 ordinally and 213 regularly for this mysterious spelling is 327. And this is basically a cipher for the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Eloheinu, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. And what you do, instead of writing the Yod, you write the next letter in the alphabet, which is the Chaf. Instead of the He, you write the next letter, which is the Vav. Instead of the Vav, the next letter, the Zayin, and so forth. And this is taken from the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Okay, Hear, O Israel, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. So that comes to 327. And this is where we know the oneness is related to the concept of the Moshiach, and is revealed through the concept of Moshiach, because we've got Moshiach ben David, 82, the ordinal of it, Moshiach ben Yosef, 116, the ordinal, Moshiach ben Ephraim, and we know this verse is very much related to Ephraim, 129. So possibly the concept of Moshiach ben Ephraim is what's exiled, is related to this exile that we're talking about up here within Yishmaelites. Okay, so together they come to 327. And also this is connected to the concept of the Hebrews, which is also 327. And I told you I would point that back to all the things that we've been saying when we came across it earlier. And finally, we've got connected to this concept of the truth up here. This is the luminaries rectified, Hameoroth. So that's when they're including the additional vavs, the 2 missing vavs. It's not spelt like this in the Torah. It's got this vav missing and this vav missing. And that's why I did some of the spellings out with a none with a missing vav. Okay, 658 regularly. So we know that it's connected to a revelation of the truth. Okay. 73 ordinally, which is Chokhmah, wisdom. Together they come to 731. Which is exactly the same as Melech Israel. I think we've already gone through that number. Yeah, we've gone through that up here somewhere, haven't we? Yeah, Melech Israel there, 731. And it's also a unity between Moshe, which has got a regular of 345, and Yeshua, which is 386, which is 731. So this is the concept of uniting Moshe and Yeshua together in order to reveal the final revelation of Moshiach, which will be Moshiach ben David. And with that I will say Shalom.